Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 91 of the Clutch Dump. Nicholas Patty here, joined by Ben Walter.
Greetings.
Before we get into this news episode, make sure to check out our last episode, which is live. By the time you're listening to this, it is live.
Yes.
Episode 90, where we recap the entire 2023 Formula One season, our predictions, how those predictions turned out, surprises, disappointments, entertaining moments of the season, disappointing moments of the season, and much more. In our last episode, that'll be on YouTube and all podcasting platforms, so you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcast, Pandora. Follow us, like the episodes, and leave ratings on those platforms. And then, if you're on YouTube, hello, you'll notice another new hat for me. I've made it to episode 90 with almost a new hat every time. Almost. And please like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you to the 83 subscribers. Thank you to the over 24,000 views on the channel, and somehow 19,000 of them came from 2 videos. Y'all are sincerely incredible in supporting the channel, supporting Ben and I, talking about cars and racing and things. But if you're a repeat listener, thank you for your loyalty. And this episode, this beginning, is going to be very rewarding for you. Because cast your mind back. Ben and I made a bet about our 2023 season predictions.
And Nick lost.
And as such, I was required to buy Ben Walter a piece of F1 merchandise. And as I've said before in previous episodes, fortunately we didn't specify that it had to be licensed, or else big boy over here would be broke.
Like noted, I'm 2025, I'm amending that rule. It has to be real F1 merch.
Well, Ben has in his possession unopened
merch.
So this
very scared
episode is Ben opening the merch. Christmas has come early, ladies and gentlemen. Ben Walter is going to open and then hopefully subsequently put on.
It's not ticking, so it's not a bomb. So that's good.
It is not a bomb.
Also, bombs don't tick anymore, so I don't know what good that would do. We've evolved.
We have evolved.
Anyway, am I allowed to open this now?
Yes, go for it.
Okay.
After much anticipation. Oh, I'm so excited. Put it on the camera for the people.
That's a shipping label. That's not important. Very concerned. I'm so concerned. See, the problem is, I know that you like this.
Did I do good?
That's the problem. I'm never going to wear this. You know that, right? It's never.
You better.
It's never going to leave this room.
You better wear that to your next F1 watching party with Jacob Villamain and the Jabronis, and just show up without telling them. And
Nick, I wouldn't wear this to a watch party with you.
Show the people what is it.
So, I don't know. Can the people see it from there?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Nick, Patty, would you like me to wear this for the rest of the episode?
If you want, I'm just.
Would it make you happier? It's the only time I'm ever going to wear it. So
I'm so happy I found that piece of merchandise first and foremost. So Ben is going to step off.
Please hold.
Yeah, and he'll probably just end up cutting this out. So I'm going to have a Cheeto. Editor's note cut here.
I don't like you very much, Mr. Patty. Wait.
Better.
There we go.
Oh my God, I'm
Proof.
so proud.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's proof. I did wear it once.
I'm so proud. Look at that in all its glory, and it fits.
You know what? I will wear it to a Jabroni's F1 watch party at some point, and I'll just like wear a hoodie and just not mention it. And then at some point, just pull the hoodie off like during like halfway through the race and just see if anyone says anything. So.
Better or worse than you thought? What was? Give me the reactions.
It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It is a very ridiculous piece of Fernando merch. This is, when you said, I already got you merch, I was like, well, I know immediately it's not something I'm going to like. That is very plain. It's not something I would ever pick. So it had to be Fernando merch. Here's the big question, Nick. Did you also order one for yourself?
No, actually, I didn't.
Really? That's surprising.
What's funny is when I ordered it, I told Shelby, I was like, oh man, I would wear this. And she goes, what'd you get, Ben? And I showed her. She goes, no, you wouldn't. And I was like, what do you mean? She's
No,
like,
no, no. I
wear that.
definitely would.
And I was like, I don't think you understand me. I would indeed wear it. So that all being said, that was a year in the making. And yeah, Ben now has his first piece of Fernando merch.
First and last piece of well, until Nick buys me another one after the 2024 season.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Batty, we have an abundance of news. So
Yeah.
much news, in fact. Would you like to get started with this first thing at the top? Because I don't actually know what that means.
So, quite literally, Shane Van Gisbergen posted a photo of him with a thumbs up standing out front of an Applebee's once he
That's
arrived
it?
in America. That was the post.
Perfect. Welcome.
Shane Van Gisbergen has landed in the United States
Oh,
for
that's
his
awesome.
NASCAR season, which is a perfect segue. Do you mind if I run through NASCAR? Would you like to talk
Oh,
about
no. Please, absolutely. Run through it.
So, it was announced yesterday or 2 days ago that Shane Van Gisbergen is going to be driving the number 97 Xfinity car with Colleague Racing. And he's also going to be driving 7 Cup Series road course races with Colleague. And his teammate in Xfinity will be AJ Allmendinger full-time in the number 16 in Xfinity. And ladies and gentlemen, just let me tell you, the memes of AJ Allmendinger and Shane Van Gisbergen just walking away with the Xfinity season. I mean, everybody's like, it's gonna be like Thanos and somebody else when it comes to road courses. Like
Great analogy. Well done.
Colleague is gonna sweep the entire season when it comes to road courses. You have the Dinger, which Xfinity is his playground when it comes to road courses. And then you're going to take the guy that in his first race in a NASCAR in the wet in Chicago on a new track won. I'm going to pray for the souls of every other Xfinity driver when it comes to the Glen or Sonoma or...
I'm incredibly excited for it.
I'm not going to lie to you. Xfinity this season might be a better season than all of NASCAR Cup Series.
Yeah, could be.
So that's Colleague Racing news. A surprise to some, Noah Gragson is returning to the NASCAR Cup Series. He's going to be driving the number 10 Ford Mustang for Stewart-Haas Racing, replacing Eric Almirola. And then, speaking of Eric Almirola, Joe Gibbs Racing made a very weird announcement where they announced, let me see, 6 drivers for 2 cars. So John,
do you want to math that one for me?
I'll try. John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Almirola are splitting the number 20 seat in Xfinity.
Okay.
3 drivers I've never heard of and one that I have heard of. Taylor Gray, Ryan Truex, Joe Graff Jr., and William Sawolick are all splitting the number 19 car. That is
okay.
A couple races. North Wilkesboro Speedway has completed the repave, which if you'll cast your mind back to kind of our last third of the NASCAR Cup Series season, after NASCAR had raced at North Wilkesboro, a lot of people were saying, oh, the track needs a repave, the track surface is terrible, it's old, it's chewed up. But then you had the people on the other side who said it's the original surface, let's leave it. It has history, it has tradition, it's a remnant of Winston Cup racing. And unfortunately for the people in that camp, they lost out because North Wilkesboro has repaved and completed the repave. I will say, if you look at photos, it looks absolutely stunning. It looks gorgeous. It looks really, really cool. And it looks really cool because it looks like a world-class facility and you still have the old Winston Cup branding and sponsorships around the track. I, on Twitter, saw some guy who's a hearing loss activist in motorsport. Who is trying to make the case that NASCAR should race with a pretty complex muffler system. And I saw a lot of people agreeing with him because he said, if you're at a NASCAR race with no ear protection, you're doing irreparable damage to your ears. Well, I agree with the point about kids having ear protection, whatever. But I was sitting there and I was like,
I feel like that's the choice of the person, isn't it? That's
Well, on top of that, if it's too loud for you, just watch it on TV.
yeah. If
Stop.
you're uncomfortable, you could just hear me
Leave.
out,
You
not go.
you could
What a
just
concept.
see yourself out. But it leaded me. It led me. Leaded. It led me to,
Leaded.
I think, more pertinent question, which is, can NASCAR survive without the noise? This becomes more relevant when, I don't remember who it was, but one of the figureheads in NASCAR with one of the teams was saying NASCAR has to consider hybrid systems in the future as opposed to electrification. Now, granted, hybrid can still be loud, i.e., the Cadillac GTP car.
Yeah.
But if NASCAR decides to go hybrid, I think it's going to be way past the point where V8s are still acceptable. Meaning, it's going to be NASCAR is going to go hybrid not because they're trying to be more responsible and keep a V8. It'll be because, like, oh, sorry, by the way, you're so far, like,
I
NASCAR
would
out with old technology. So when they adopt the newer technology, I think it's going to be way far past the point where there's still V8s.
I'd be okay if NASCAR became like twin turbo, smaller displacement V8 hybrids. I would be okay with that being a thing.
I'm not okay with forced induction in NASCAR. Nope.
I mean, like big old like 1471 blower sticking out the hood would be pretty cool, but I mean,
If you took the Cadillac GTP power plant and then just made it unrestricted,
actually, yeah. Can we just put the Cadillac engine into the NASCARs? Can we just do that? That's pretty cool. That'll work.
NASCAR.
We've fixed NASCAR. God, we're so good. Anyway, next.
Step one by making it NASCAR, and now we fix NASCAR by making it IMSA.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. There we go. Solving all your problems. Nick Patty.
Thanks for the clutch dump memories, guys. We fixed all of motorsports, so we're no longer needed.
We have nothing to comment on. It's all good. That's what all the episodes will be. It's all good. Nick Patty, our next bit of news.
Yeah, so I didn't know this, and I've heard the name, but I didn't realize he had driven as recently as he had. Herschel McGriff, if you're a NASCAR fan, you'll know.
Nick, is that a typo? That's got to be a typo.
No.
Oh.
He turns 96 today.
Jesus.
He drove in the first Southern 500 ever in 1950.
1950.
And then he drove an ARCA car in 2018. So quite literally, every NASCAR driver almost to have ever raced has raced against Herschel McGriff. You want to hear a really weird comparison? Herschel
Please.
McGriff drove against Lee Petty.
Yes.
And Haley Deegan.
That's just that's weird.
Happen. That should not be allowed.
That's super weird. Also, I like that, by the way, if you just Google 1950 NASCAR, because I'm like, what were these dudes driving? Half the pictures are convertibles.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Also, I like how they were bragging. There's giant letters on the hood. 230 horsepower.
Oh, dude.
Nice.
Rolling.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is not. So he turns what, 96 today?
96.
So he would have been what, 91?
No,
90?
He is the oldest driver to ever compete in an official NASCAR sanctioned event.
What day did he start to get in the car for that ARCA race? Was it the day before?
You know what's interesting though is Herschel McGriff could have, I'm not saying he, like, I don't know if he did, but like age-wise, could have been in high school at the end of World War II, and then also, like, Herschel McGriff raced NASCAR, potentially with World War II veterans.
Yes.
And then also raced NASCAR when there was a NASCAR TikTok. Let that sink in.
Yep. See, that's so funny to me because a podcast I was listening to earlier mentioned the podcast I was talking about how his grandma lived to be 101. So she remembers. So she was born in 1918.
Okay.
He's like, so she remembers when radios became a thing.
Right.
She also had an iPhone.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like, it's crazy that in the past like 7,500 years we just woof in technology.
Herschel McGriff drove NASCAR when women like.
Where are you going with this?
No, I'm not even making light of it. Herschel McGriff raced in NASCAR at a time where women were supposed to stay in the kitchen and make coffee and make dinner, and then he ended up racing against Dan Patrick.
I was to say, and then he raced NASCAR against women.
Like, how? I would love to just be like Herschel. Like, I'm sure he as a kid actually
I would
moonshine routes in the 40s.
Yeah.
And
then, no.
Yeah.
He was there for the start of NASCAR.
Uh-huh.
And then I would love to know every thought that went through his head in that 2018 ARCA race. I'd love to know everything he was thinking.
Herschel McGriff, what he was thinking is thank God I have my catheter plugged in.
Exactly.
Herschel McGriff raced when Ford factory drivers were Bruce McLaren and Ken Miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also drove when Ford factory drivers were Joey Hand and Haley Deegan. Let that one sink in.
Yep, that's a thing.
Well, Herschel McGriff, this one's for you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Herschel McGriff, indeed. Nick, we have some pretty exciting NHRA news.
Do we?
We do. I, Ben Walther, am stoked for NHRA in 2024.
Really?
Yes, we'll get to that later when we go over our 2024 calendar. Please go ahead, Mr. Patty.
Get free tickets to NHRA when they come to Arizona. Let me know.
I'll think about it, actually.
Do it.
But, Mr. Patty, we have NHRA news. Please.
Oh, I thought you were going to take it away. My apologies.
No, you wrote all the notes. I'm just giving feedback on what you say this episode. That's what's happening.
Well, I still have a half bag of Cheetos to go. So, Tony Stewart is taking his wife's seat at his team for next year. If that's mildly confusing, then we're on the same page. So, Tony Stewart, his wife is Leah Pruitt. Leah Pruitt was racing in Top Fuel Dragster. Tony Stewart was racing last season in Top Alcohol Dragster.
Yes.
Don't know. Top Alcohol is for alcohol injection. Top Fuel is nitro. So different. Really, the only difference is the injection and fuel methods. Like that's.
By the way, the difference in terms of power is several thousand horsepower.
Yes, but in terms of words, it's
only... In terms of words, yes, it's
exactly.
They pour a different fluid in this one than they do in that one.
Could not have said it better myself. So Tony Stewart is taking his wife's seat because, in her words, they're going to focus on starting a family. Here's the interesting thing, though. She said she's coming back in 2025, which means either they've already been busy and she is actively pregnant, will give birth within 12 months, and then the baby will be fresh out of the Stewarts, and then all of a sudden she's back in a nitro car and the baby's at home. Don't quite understand that.
Or Tony Stewart just wanted to drive his Top Fuel Dragster.
Well, then I think, but here's the thing: is that why would they have said to focus on starting a family? Because we'll know if it's BS or not. Like,
okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Like, I thought this was her retiring. Like, hey,
this is it. So you've had a giant career. Yeah.
I'm gonna stay at home. I'm gonna raise the kids. We're gonna have kids. I mean, Leah Pruitt, I think, is in her early 40s. I think.
I hit you with a quick fact check.
Yeah, I think she is. Because I think Tony is in her early 50s.
35. Leah Pruitt.
Okay.
1988.
So Leah Pruitt, in the race car scene, ignore John Force, is approaching, she's within 5 years of the normal kind of retirement age, even for old drivers.
Yep.
So if they actually have kids at this point, I think realistically that spells the end of her career, which it's been a successful one. That's not to take away from Leah Pruitt's success in Top Fuel drag racing. I believe she's a champion of the series. She, at a point, had some records to her name.
Of Top Fuel, no, but she does have a factory stock championship. I know that.
Okay. So, Tony Stewart, on the other hand, is really just having fun. He's exploring. Now, all this was announced at PRI in Indianapolis this last week, and Tony Stewart said, and I'm quoting here, the Top Fuel dragster scares the shit out of him.
As it should. It should scare 99.99% of people on the planet.
Ben, would you like to explain to the viewers how much horsepower Top Fuel and even Nitro Funny Cars have?
Top Fuel dragsters have 10,000 horsepower. 10,000 horsepower. I drove a car today with 550 horsepower, and the roads were a little damp, and I had a little pucker moment, and I was like, oh shit, right, this car makes a lot of power. It really doesn't, because a Top Fuel makes 20 times as much power.
Faster than a Tesla Plaid.
Yes, so...
who just traded some crypto, and they think they're fast in their model Plaid.
So, just for reference, I'm looking at Leah Pruitt's Wikipedia page right here, which is the end-all be-all of correct information. For starters, yes, 1 factory stock championship. Also, 11 Top Fuel wins, so really impressive. However, she has a best ET of 3.63 seconds in the quarter mile and a top speed of 334.15 miles per hour in Chandler, Arizona, actually.
Have you been to an NHRA race?
No, I've never seen an NHRA event before.
Oh, brother.
No.
Okay, we got to get you.
I've seen an alcohol dragster do a run, and I thought I'd be all big and macho and stand next to in the burnout box and not cover my ears. That might be one of the worst mistakes I've ever done, and that'll come back to bite me about the time I'm 45 and I can't hear anymore.
Do you want to know that I made a very similar mistake where my brother-in-law, who's, I believe, has he been on the podcast forever again? Before we were on YouTube? Maybe.
Sam has been on 2 episodes of the podcast.
No, Brendan, my brother-in-law.
Oh, sorry. Brendan, the other one,
I think
he's been on at least 2, I think.
Okay. So if you're a old school listener of the podcast, you'll know. But he told me, don't be a blank.
Stand there and don't cover your ears.
Wear earplugs or cover your ears.
Yep.
See, I was in the starter box for Nitro Funny Cars, which is a combined, 28,000 horsepower?
Yeah, something like that.
And when they launched at the same time...
Your eyes rattled?
I'm not kidding you. I quite literally ran out of the box because I thought my ears were bleeding. Like, I felt what felt like blood streaming down the sides of my head.
When that alcohol dragster did a hit, I was standing probably 6 feet from it, 7 feet from it. That was one of those things of like, it's one of those things of every time a dude with a 5th gen or frankly a 4th gen puts a cam in their car and they hang out with other buddies like, oh man, you can feel it in your chest. No, you can feel it in your chest. Like, it is
literally, you can feel your
it shifts all the air in a 50-foot radius. It's the coolest thing. So I am.
Being said, Tony Stewart's competing full time next season in the top class of dragster racing. Where do we think he's gonna be? And I don't know this for sure, folks. I'm not a huge NHRA watcher. I believe there's 6 to 8 competitors in Top Fuel Dragster. Doug Kalita, Steve Torrance, Brittany Force, Tony Schumacher.
In Top Fuel,
yes.
For let's see here, 2023 for the NHRA Camping World Drag Series. Is that Top Fuel? That is Top Fuel. Yes. 41 people.
Well, there's no way all 41 run, is there?
No. There's a bracket system. There's a thing.
Well, I might as well take this hat off me. I don't understand it. No.
I'll be honest. Next year, what I'm excited for isn't even Top Fuel. So,
what is it?
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. There's a new class, and we're hyped.
Is it
Anyway.
something 4th gen can run in? Is that why you're excited?
No, it's something that 6th gen's running. We'll get to that later. However, we do have sports car news, and I'm quite excited about this. I'm very fond of this. Toyota has debuted a new livery across their factory teams, including the WRC and the WEC. They went from a white and red livery to a black and red livery, and I think it looks super cool, especially on the WRC car. The WEC car looks mint as well, but I think that rally car looks minty. Nick, Patty, your thoughts?
I think it looks sensational.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's going to look really cool at Le Mans next year. Matteo Carrillo is leaving Porsche to join Lamborghini, and Yifei is leaving Porsche and Jota.
It's my Matteo Cairoli.
Matteo Cannoli, whatever.
You call him Corolla.
Lamborghini has announced a full roster at COTA with Cairoli. Did I pronounce that correct, Nick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Roman Grosjean, Mortara Kvyat, Bortolotti. Did I pronounce that one right, Nick?
Bortolotti and Caldarelli. There you go.
There we go. We got them all in there.
Hot off the Lamborghini press, I connected with Roman Grosjean on LinkedIn, which means I'm connected with Roman Grosjean and Daniel Ricciardo on LinkedIn.
Nick is basically a Formula One driver now.
And dripping in the sauce.
Nick, how do you feel about the SC63 now that we've heard it, seen it in action? What do we think?
I'm not going to lie to you. God, was that shot at COTA majestic when it was at turn 18?
Oh, so good. Turn 18 is the best for shots, isn't it?
Parked with all the drivers in front of it, and then the flag way up off in the background.
Yep. Did you get the video that I sent you?
Yes,
of it doing laps? It's so good. So good. That car is going to look great next year.
Well,
no idea.
Oh, good. But do you think it's going to be competitive?
I mean, I want to say no because it's its first year in the sport, and especially since Lamborghini has like basically zero endurance history. No, I don't think they'll be challenging for the championship, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on a podium at least once next year.
Well, that's the great thing about IMSA. If you look at last year, you had BMW win, Porsche win, Acura win, Cadillac win. Every manufacturer won in GTP in the first year of the series.
Right.
The class rally. So
yeah.
I think there's pretty good parity. I do think, though, that Lambo will probably go its first year without a win, only because now all those teams have a one full season under the belt.
Right. They've got a substantial advantage. Are you coming to Lone Star Le Mans next year?
Yes. My mom said she was going to talk to our PSL rep at COTA.
Perfect.
To get us tickets ahead of time. But yeah, we were planning on coming down for that.
Perfect. Nick, would you like to talk about some Jota news?
Oh, yes. So Team Jota, whatever, posted that the number 12 Porsche 963, in case you're unaware, they have two cars this upcoming season. The number 12 car will have Callum Ilott, who you'll recognize from IndyCar, and Nato Norman behind the wheel. And so far, the number 38 will have Phil Hansen behind the wheel. That's the only one they've announced. I believe he was with United Autosports in LMP2 last year.
Phil Hansen will single-handedly drive the Jota car next year.
Oh, no, he won't. Because if you go back a couple weeks, Jenson Button said, I'm really close to fulfilling a full-time ride in World Endurance in the hypercar class. And people were like, oh, what does that mean? Well, Jota posted today them pulling back the decal where the drivers' names are, and it said F1 World Champion, and they said announcement coming tomorrow. So, at the time that we record this...
I feel like that's pretty clear.
Thursday, December 14th at 6:45 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm just going to say it's Jenson Button. So,
congratulations, Jenson Button, on your drive in the number 38 Hertz Team Jota 963.
World Endurance. So, and then, Ben, did you see the car that is the subject of the next bullet point?
The boot? Yes. Are you aware of the history of the boot? For starters, the boot has been out for several years now, but are you aware of the history of the boot?
The boot?
The boot. Yes. Are we talking about the same thing here? Let me see. Let's see. We are looking at the. I'm just gonna look up Glickenhaus Baja truck.
It's Glickenhaus 008.
Glickenhaus 008.
Yes. Also
Oh,
referring to our earlier conversation, that's SVG outside Applebee's.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. If they don't sell posters of that, I'll be very upset.
We should go to a NASCAR race with a poster and try to get him to autograph it.
Try to get him to sign it. You said 008? Baja Dakar buggy. Oh, this thing. Yes. Okay. So, does it work now? Have we seen videos of it working?
They were loading it up onto a trailer in the video.
Okay. I don't look at your Twitter, Nick. I probably did, and I just scrolled past it. I'm very sorry. Okay, yeah, so the 008 they announced in 2021 is when we got renders of that car. In a typical Glickenhaus fashion, it took a long time for that to become a thing. It happens when you're a small manufacturer. I'm stoked about it. I know nothing about it, but it looks like if Ferrari built a Dakar buggy. So I'm stoked for it. Is it racing Dakar this year? Is that what's happening?
I literally, Glickenhaus posted it saying, you know what the caption was? Glickenhaus 008. And then it was just it being loaded on a trailer.
Okay, so there's... Yeah, I don't know. Because they have another car called the Boot, which is their old Baja buggy, and it looks like Steve McQueen's Boot. If you're familiar with that vehicle. Steve McQueen Baja Boot.
I'm looking this up. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So... apparently Jim Glickenhaus is a massive Steve McQueen fan, as is everyone else on the planet. So he's like, we'll just make a production version of this. And they did. Not? Why not? Because I'm Jim Glickenhaus and I'm a billionaire and I can do what I want. So I'm going to make Steve McQueen's car.
Okay.
So yeah, sadly, Glickenhaus no longer in WEC. Thankfully, building Baja trucks no one can afford.
As
Nick, Proton competition.
Yeah, so Proton competition, you'll remember it being the WeatherTech livery car last season that ran a handful of IMSA races and then ran, I believe, the second half of the WEC season. They are running an IMSA full-time next year with the Mustang sampling colors, which you'll remember from Action Express if you're a Grand Am / IMSA fan. Lord, let me tell you, the 963s have the best liveries amongst all the teams. The Penske livery, fire. Freaking Jota liveries, fire. And then this livery, the king of them all. The gold, black, and some of the white is just absolutely sensational. So
yeah, I'm looking at this right now. This is very good. This is all good. If
you're not aware of the livery that we're talking about, imagine the Rich Energy Haas on a hypercar. So good. So
yes,
that is happening.
Also on a Mustang.
That too. That is happening next year. Memo Rojas is retiring from racing at age 42. Now, again, if you are a historic Grand Am enthusiast, you'll know Memo
such as Mr. Patty.
You'll know Memo Rojas from being Scott Pruitt's co-driver in the Target Telmex Chip Ganassi Racing Riley prototypes, the Daytona prototypes, the white with the bright blue on it that Scott Pruitt wiped the floor with everybody. His co-driver was Memo Rojas for almost every single one of those races. So whenever you see the Telmex sponsorship on one of those cars, that's obviously, I believe, one of the Mexican telephone communication companies, and that was a sponsor he brought onto the team. So he's retiring. I'm sure he's raced in plenty of Formula Atlantic and Open Wheel and a bunch of other stuff. But for us here stateside, most of what we remember of him was old school Grand Am. Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier are moving up from GT World Challenge to IMSA for a 6-race program in 2024. They were driving one of the 991.2 GT3Rs in World Fanatec GT Challenge, and their new co-drivers are going to be Jan Halen, who you'll remember being a co-driver with Ryan Hardwick in the first form sponsored IMSA GTD car. Jan Halen was running with him. Now he's running with Elliot Skier and Adam Adelson. And then they're going to be joined by Frederick Makovecki, who was a factory Porsche Penske driver last season in World Endurance. And he was also a factory Porsche driver in the RSRs. So two drivers with pretty serious Porsche pedigree and success are going to be joining Adelson and Skier for their IMSA Endurance program. Then we have some IndyCar news.
We do have IndyCar news, and DHL moves to Alex Palou's Ganassi ride after leaving Andretti. They will continue to work with Andretti in Indy Next, sponsoring Jamie Chadwick.
Which is interesting, because I don't know if I've ever seen a sponsor two separate teams at the same time.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. So, Jamie Chadwick, who did she race for last year?
I think it was Andretti still. It just wasn't that sponsorship.
No, because she was DHL sponsored, because her and Romain Grosjean were DHL, like, buddies.
This is what I'm saying, is DHL was with Andretti. So she was probably still sponsored by DHL and Andretti, and she's staying there, and they're staying with her, but DHL is leaving in IndyCar. I'm going to be right on this. You should buy me some IndyCar merch.
Yeah, okay, sorry, yes, I got confused by the previous statement. Okay, so Alex Palou is moving to Chip Ganassi. He is leaving...
He's been at Chip Ganassi.
What? Oh.
So Alex Palou is staying where he is, Jamie Chadwick is staying where she is.
Yes.
DHL said, hey, Andretti, Romain Grosjean left. See ya. We're going...
Right, okay, that's... Sorry, people. I'm a little confused at the moment, but we got it now.
Ben only builds $500,000 resto mods.
I only have the brain space for so many things today. DHL sponsored Andretti. DHL no longer sponsors Andretti in IndyCar. They're now sponsoring Chip Ganassi in IndyCar. However, they're still sponsoring Jamie Chadwick in Indy Next. She still drives for Andretti. There you go. Got some Formula One news. Aramco is now the title sponsor of Aston Martin Formula One, now the Aston Martin Aramco F1 team, which is rather exciting because they were at Red Bull last, right? That's where they were, correct?
No, they were sponsoring Aston. They weren't the title sponsor, though. So they just
okay, that's what it was.
To their title sponsorship. And the next point is something that is kind of scary.
Terrifying, actually.
If you split Max Verstappen's season in half, first 11 races, last 11 races.
Either one could have won the championship.
Not quite. In the first 11 races, he had 281 points. Perez's total for the season was 285.
Oof.
In the second 11 of the season,
yeah,
Sergio Perez with 285 was short of Max Verstappen's 294. So you could take Max Verstappen's last 11 races, and he would have still beat Sergio Perez.
Yeah. One second. I found this the other day. Let me see if I can find it again.
While you're looking, I'm going to just randomly let people know I didn't know this. On December 14th in 2008, guess who beat Michael Schumacher in the Race of Champions at Wembley Stadium?
Oh, I don't actually...
If you guess this, I will buy you a piece of merch from the series that this guy...
Sorry, repeat that again. I wasn't actually listening to the question.
In 2008, you remember when they did the Race of Champions where it was inside the stadium?
Yes, they still do that.
Guess who beat Michael Schumacher in the finals?
I know this because I've watched a video about it, but I do not remember it at the moment. It's deeply...
Carl Edwards, as in the Aflac-sponsored NASCAR guy.
That's right, I remember that.
Michael Schumacher in a Fiat 500 Abarth.
Yes.
That's what we could call as a road course.
It's a paved race surface, I guess.
You heard it here first. Carl Edwards is the greatest Formula One driver of all time.
Greatest Formula One driver
Better
of
than
all time.
Lewis Hamilton, better than Schumacher. Senna, take a back seat. Carl Edwards do it.
Oh, Carl Edwards at the top. Oh my god. Yeah, I've read a couple like weird stats about that, of like weird non-professional racing events that professional drivers go and do and just get like murdered by some random. So the guy who is the lead chassis engineer for Lotus, his name is Gavin.
Okay.
He went and did like a drifting competition for a magazine like 2 or 3 years after he joined Lotus as their lead engineer. He dials in the chassis at their racetrack. He puts hundreds of miles on racetracks on Lotuses, low tie as it were. And he went and did this drifting competition, and he won it 3 years in a row. And I was listening to an interview with them, and they were like, "Oh, that's really cool." You know, like, were there any noticeable names? And he goes, "Oh yeah, there was this guy Travis Pastrana. There was a guy named Ken Block. There was this rally driver. Oh God, what was his name? Raced for Subaru. Colin McRae. That was his name." And then it's like, yeah, there were some F1 drivers there as well. Schumacher was there. He just started like rattling off like all these like crazy like people regarded as the goats of their profession, and he's like, yeah, we went and did a drifting, but it was like a weird like obscure drifting event. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna put you in an M3 and we'll start there, and then we're gonna put you in like
stock, and you just gotta
do it. No, but then it's like, now we're gonna put you in like a mail van, and then we're gonna put you in like a school bus.
And he won.
And just his ability to just adapt to cars is just nuts. Like, he's just programmed differently. Yeah, so it's weird stuff like that of like, oh yeah, remember this event that means nothing to anybody. It's not worth any money or any trophies, but remember that time that random guy just like destroyed F1 champions and Colin McRae and Travis Pastrana? I couldn't find it real quick, but I did read somewhere about because of how, so obviously Max Verstappen locked out the championship at some point because he mathematically had more points than Sergio Perez could get in the remainder of the season. But I read somewhere that with how many points Sergio Perez ended up having, because he didn't get the full potential of points, obviously, where Max technically won the championship by, and it was like the summer break or something. Like, it was like crazy, ridiculously, like when Max had 286 points, it was like way stupider. Like, he could have left for a long time. Speaking
of kind of the Race of Champions and your drift story,
yes,
I may have told you this, and if I have, I apologize, but the listeners won't have heard it. But when Scott Goodyear was out at Radford, I mentioned to him IROC, right? The International Race of Champions.
Yes.
And I didn't know that Scott Goodyear had competed in IROC. And so Scott Goodyear told me that in his he was invited 3 times. He couldn't make it the first 2 because of other races, but he made it the 3rd time. And this is like 1996.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that.
6 or 98. So we're talking like the Pontiac Firebird NASCAR IROC cars.
4th gen days. The good old days.
He said he walked up to the driver's meeting that was a huddle at Daytona.
Uh-huh.
And he was standing there, and Scott Goodyear's probably about 5'5", 5'4".
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, and I was just standing there looking around at Dale Earnhardt and Mario Andretti, and I'm just like, whoa, what? Just
in a huddle of legends.
I was just, oops, Dale Earnhardt, which, for this episode's Ask Grok segment, no, I did not forget, but the viewer probably thought I did.
I think the viewer was hoping you did.
I asked Grok, could Dale Earnhardt have won the Indy 500? This is Grok's response. And I quote, Dale Earnhardt, a legendary NASCAR driver, never competed in the Indianapolis 500. However, his skill and adaptability as a driver suggests that he could have been a strong contender if he chose to participate.
I bet you he could have. I bet you he could have.
God, could you imagine a GM Goodwrench liveried Chevy Indy car?
Oh, from the 90s, dude. Oh. Okay, anyway, I forgot. I have a bit of news.
Ben has a bit of news.
We briefly mentioned it 2 episodes ago, but Trackhouse, MotoGP.
Yes. Oh, they expanded to 2 bikes, right?
So they were always going to be 2 bikes. That was the thing. That was because they took over an existing team, is how that works. So they took over a team that was already 2 bikes with 2 riders. Both of the riders were on the grid last year. It's not a new team on the grid. It's just a name change for a team on the grid.
Right.
But they have already extended their contract with Aprilia. It is now a multi-year contract. Also, they are pushing to get their bikes to be factory, like 2024 Aprilia bikes on the grid next year.
Hear me out.
So there's going to be, hopefully, 4 factory Aprilias as opposed to 2 2024 Aprilias and 2 2023 Aprilias.
Hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
One side of the bike is metallic Italian flag. Other side of the bike is
I like it already.
Or one bike is all Italian flag.
Ooh, that'd be
the entire
good.
left side of the fairing is green, the center is white, and then the right side of the fairing is red.
Yep.
And then the other bike is all stars and stripes.
Yep. So I listened to an interview with Justin Marks, who is the owner of Trackhouse. What was that?
I said, did ya?
I did. And Justin Marks did not bring up the idea of joining MotoGP until 8 weeks before we saw that American flag bike. 8 weeks from we should do this to here's a livery.
And they're going to end up winning the championship. Watch.
Yeah, I think Trackhouse is going to be the most successful MotoGP team of all time. Do not quote me on that.
Next episode, preseason predictions of MotoGP.
No, I can't do that. No, that's too much pressure, Nick. I can't do it. I mean, we can. Do we want to...
The loser has to buy the winter MotoGP merch. Licensed
MotoGP merch?
I don't want to know what kind of creepy old woman crushing on Pecco Bagnaia merch there is, but...
No, it would just be incredibly obscene early 2000s Valentino Rossi merch. Which I'm kind of okay with. I would wear that.
Actually, you know what? Screw it.
You got a deal, sir. You got a deal. Shake. All right. Real quick, do we want to, because we got about 15 minutes left in this episode, do you want to briefly discuss our 2024 race calendar?
Go for it.
Okay, so,
also,
the people...
You do. See how I did that? I said go for it, then I interrupt. BJ Zacharias is more than likely going to be joining us for a Rolex 24 watch party, which I'm going to be stoked about.
That's going to be sick. Tell BJ Zacharias that I said hi.
You know what? I will. Okay. I'm not going to post this episode on LinkedIn because I got to tell a story, and I have to, but it involves a bad word. So he's selling.
Nick, I'd like it noted you already couldn't post this episode. I'm wearing a shirt that says MILF on it. You ruined that episode 46 minutes ago.
In that case, fuck it. So
there it is.
He's selling a CT4 Blackwing.
Yes.
For a dark horse. But he's going to change the badging to where it says Dork Horse.
Perfect. All is redeemed.
Totally
fine.
So I told him he's got to have the big board like Corvette owners do and say it's a one-of-one Dork Horse.
Yes.
And him and I were joking. He'd be like, Charlie, kids, come here. Take a photo in front of the Dark Horse. It's going to be great. And then I told him, I was like, oh, I'm going to have my brother-in-law and my wife come out and do a class, and I'm going to request you for my brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
Because BJ just will rib and roast and zing. He does not let up.
Sure.
And so he was brainstorming with me ways he'd roast Brendan while doing the class. Like, regardless of how, even if he breaks the lap record of the track, he's going to give him shit.
Perfect.
And so one of them was like, oh, now I see what Nick was saying. Wow. Ooh, please. And then
damn.
The other one was he's gonna have the data up, and he's gonna be like, see, this is your trace and this is my trace. And right here, that's where you're a little bitch.
Oh, that's awesome. Dude, honestly though, I'll be honest, at all of my track days, so all of my track days that I've done on bikes have been track schools technically. It's not just here's a racetrack, go have a good time, because that's a good way to die. It's also a good way to not get better. So I do instructions, and there's some instructors that'll be like super nice because they want you to come back. And then we'll get like my first track day, our instructor was, God, I think it was 58. And this dude, nobody could catch him. Not a single person could catch. I was trying my hardest, and this dude was like hand on his hip, one-handed, like tootling around this track, and I could not catch him.
One of Brendan's bosses is the lead instructor for Podium Club for motorcycles, and he was doing 173 on an Aprilia RSV4 down the front straight, and he was inches from the wall. If Brendan hasn't sent you the video, he needs to send it. It is like, and it sounds like the MotoGP bikes. It's the coolest thing.
They sound so good. But yeah, he was one of those people that was like super blunt, and he's like, dude, suck it up. You're not gonna die. You'll be fine. Just go faster. Yeah, I'm like, all right, fair enough.
BJ was like, when I do the ride along with him, he was gonna be like, I see why you took the course. Like,
this was a good idea. I think this was a good move.
Another one of them was like,
money well spent, I think.
Another one of them was gonna be like, it's okay. You don't need to do any more warm up laps. Those weren't. Oh,
okay.
My mistake.
Like Brendan's like sweating. He's like drenched in sweat, and BJ's like, "Hey, whenever you'd like, you could start doing hot laps. Just whenever you want."
Like, no, on this one, set a hot lap.
Yeah. On this one, you're welcome to push, and we can go faster now. Dude, so just start grilling him.
We got to get him on this. It will be the funniest, most out of pocket.
We'll do it at some point next year.
Him and I, one of the first things we bonded over, for the listeners, this is a IMSA driver who I grew up watching race with the factory-backed Nissan team in Continental Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things him and I bonded over is he mentioned Cracker Barrel, and I was like, I love Cracker Barrel. And then our order
never been to Cracker Barrel.
Identical. We both get the French toast, but the difference is I get the French toast with the Sunday home-style chicken on top of it and a double side order of fried apples.
I'll tell you what, though. I feel like, for starters, this is derailed, and this episode is going to be long, because we are going to go over our calendar briefly.
Why don't we do a calendar with the MotoGP predictions?
Oh, we could do that. We could do that a lot.
We could
totally do that.
Minutes of derailing.
There we go. Isn't it so weird how you can connect to a person over your order at a restaurant? Literally the most meaningless thing on the planet. But my Schlotsky's order is the exact same. No. It's the exact same as my old boss, and every time I order, I think about him. Every single time. Every time I order, I'm like, isn't it so weird that this was also his order? And it's like, no, it's not, Ben. There's only so many options that there could be.
No,
it's not weird.
As I'm like, he's a dad. He's married. He has his career job. He started and finished his pro racing career. And I'm a 24-year-old kid out of college who wish I had his career. And then
we're just going to hang out and talk about Cracker Barrel.
And then we're like, yeah, we both like French toast and fried apples. Like, what?
The world is a strange place, Nick. The world is It's a very strange place. Well, I guess episode 92 is going to be MotoGP predictions, and we're going to review our...
When Shelby gets off tomorrow, we can record that tomorrow.
We can. So 90 will go live today, the 14th. 91 will go live tomorrow, the 15th. And then
save 90 for Monday.
2 will go live Monday.
Okay.
So, perfect. Well, in that case, that is going to do it for episode 91 of The Clutch Dump. As Nick said at the top of the show, make sure you go follow us on the social media platforms at The Clutch Dump. Go follow Nick on Twitter because he posts way too much about stuff.
Nicholas Patty 21, and follow Ben on Twitter at Walther_Ben.
Actually, just go follow my shop at MuscleRod_shop because it's far more interesting than what my Twitter will be. But whatever podcasting platform you're listening to this on, make sure you give us a follow or subscribe, leave a rating and review. It helps us grow, bring you more content, make the podcast better, whatever I was going to say whatever you're watching this on. You can only be watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below, share the video. What do you think of the news? How do you think Trackhouse is going to do next season? Make a pre-prediction. And then how do you think Tony Stewart's going to do? What do you think of Glickenhaus Racing Baja, etc., etc.? Until next time, that's going to do it from us here. We'll see you then.